Welcome to the Basement Book Drop. I'm Rutherford Rankin, and today's episode is about the part 2 of my Verage face project. So I've been doing the Verage, the doTerra Verage collection for the past, it was supposed to be 30 days, kind of turned into 35 to 37, got distracted with some stuff, and so I wasn't able to film part 2 exactly when I wanted. But today we're gonna go over the results of that, just to show you that I didn't just throw makeup on to cover up all of my flaws and try to persuade you that the Verage worked better than it did. I'm actually gonna put on my makeup that I typically wear for these videos. So let's get started. I just want to apologize to my skin. I was so naive. I didn't wear sunscreen. I didn't moisturize. And this is where we ended up. Crow's feet. So it has been a little more than 30 days. It's probably about 35 to 37 days after I filmed the last video for the Verage Face Project Part 1. Got a little distracted with some stuff in my personal life that interfered with me being able to film it at 30 days, but I think that's good because it gives you a little bit of extra time to see the results. So I have been using the Verage collection for the past like 35 to 37 days. Most days I've been doing it twice a day, so in the morning and at night. And so now I want to share the results with you. So based on what I was looking to accomplish the last time when I did part 1, I'm gonna kind of go through those areas and see if there's any change. I've already noticed a few changes before even reviewing that part 1. So I'm excited to share those with you. So the first thing that I pointed out in my last video, in my part 1 video, was the lines and crow's feet under my eye. And you'll actually see, I think in the part 1 video, there was a big line that was coming down like right here, and it went all the way down like my cheek, at least on this side, I think. It might've been on this side as well, but you'll be able to see in the before and after. That line is slightly there, but it's kind of cleared out a little bit. So definitely an improvement over the last time, I will say that. Now, I do still have some fine lines under my eyes, but watch what happens when I smile or squint. There are still some lines here. Now, the last video, I'm pretty sure that when I like relaxed my face, those lines would stay, and now they're actually kind of like going away. So, that was a welcome change. I do feel like there was a reduction in lines under my eyes. Could be just, you know, improved moisturization, that type of thing, but I definitely do see a difference. As far as the under eye circles, they're not really gone, but I do feel like there was less puffiness under my eyes and it's less defined, I guess. The lines are still there, but the funny thing is I've been noticing when I watch like YouTube videos and stuff that everybody has those lines like right there. And I don't know why I'm like worried about them, but I try to cover them up with concealer if I'm wearing makeup, and it works sometimes, sometimes it doesn't. So it didn't really get rid of those. It did reduce them a little bit, I think. So that was an exciting change for me. Moving on, I believe the next thing was the pores on my nose. So I'm gonna get real close, let the camera adjust. So I don't feel like there was a whole lot of change here. I will say maybe they're not as noticeable, but the pores are the same size, but we all know you can't change the size of your pores. So there's that. It does seem to have helped clear out some of the gunk out of the pores, which is kind of gross, but at the same time, everybody's got it. So the pores, it didn't really reduce the size, but it maybe made them a little less noticeable. Moving on, I believe I had some lines starting down here on my cheeks. They're still there when I smile or squint, but when I relax my face, they do kind of like go away a little bit. So that was a nice change. The other thing was my T-zone. I think I mentioned in my last video, my T-zone is really oily and then my cheeks are really dry. So I did notice that depending on how I did the Verage collection and the routine that I used, it did help reduce some of the oiliness in the T-zone, and at the same time it did moisturize like the dry areas on my cheeks. So what I noticed was if I used the hydrating serum, it kind of made the oil worse if I did it during the day. But if I did it only at night, it had time to kind of soak into my skin, and then it wasn't as oily. So I'll give you a few tips at the end for my recommendations on how to use Verage, because I've been trying some different things out with it based on when I'm using which products, and so I'll give you some recommendations on that as well. The next thing I believe was my forehead. I had a lot of sun damage and dark spots and hyperpigmentation up here around where my hairline used to be. I do feel like they're a little bit lighter than they were before, so it did kind of even out my complexion up here. The other thing was I had these really deep lines, which they're still there, but I do feel like they kind of reduced a bit in the last like 35 days as I've been moisturizing and using the Verage products. So overall, I'm pretty happy with what's happening with those lines. So I won't complain about that. Another thing on my forehead, I used to have right here, there was a sun damage spot, and you can still kind of see it, but it's kind of going away. Like, it's way smaller than it used to be. And like, I can hardly even feel it anymore, and it used to be kind of scaly. Now it's just kind of a little bump. So that was a welcome change. I also used to have a weird spot up here that I can't even find anymore. It used to be like right here. I can feel maybe a tiny little bump, but they kind of just cleared up. Like, it removed some of the scaliness on those and then reduced the size of them. Probably just dead skin and stuff that was there that needed to be maybe exfoliated and cleansed off. So that was a nice change. It's pretty much gone up here. On my cheek, I did have this sunspot that I pointed out the last time, or this sun damage spot. It is smaller. It got kind of scaly more when I started using Verage, and then it's gonna be gross, but it kind of peeled off a little bit, and so like it's still there, but not quite as noticeable. So pretty happy with that. I haven't been getting the kind of scaly dry skin right here above my beard that I was getting before. And I think that's just proper moisturization, that type of thing. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with the results. I will say that I feel more confident. I wasn't necessarily worried about the flaws on my skin, but it has helped me kind of feel a little bit more confident to just like be myself, be comfortable in my skin. So now that you've seen the results of the Verage Face Project Part 2, I kind of wanted to share with you some of the tips that I picked up that have been helpful to me when using these products. So my face is freshly cleansed with the Verage cleanser. It's kind of hard to use these in the video when I'm using a green screen because they have green on the label, and so they don't always show up at all, or sometimes the same color. So if they disappear, I apologize. But the first step to the Verage skincare line is obviously the cleanser. So I use the cleanser morning and night most days. There have been a few days on the weekends where I have missed it in the morning, but I've done it at night before I go to bed. But that's the first step. So even if I don't do anything else, if I don't use the toner, the serum, or the moisturizer, I definitely use the cleanser. The toner is the second step. So this is a lovely spray toner, and I love that it's a spray toner. You don't have to put it on a cotton pad and rub it all over your face. What I've been doing is just spray it directly onto my face and then rub it in with my fingers. When you're a guy and you have a beard and you shave, your hairs on your beard and your face get really sharp. And so if you try to use something like a cotton pad or something to rub that into your face, you get a lot of lint and fibers stuck in your hairs, and then they're there all day. They're hard to get rid of. So I love that this is a spray toner because I don't have to do that. I can just use my fingers to rub it in. So that is the second step. That's my tip for the toner. Just spray it on and rub it in with your fingers. If you want to use a cotton pad, you can, but I don't think it's necessary. The third step is the hydrating serum. So a couple of things about the hydrating serum. If you have oily skin, I don't recommend using the hydrating serum at all. I noticed that if I use this during the day, like if I wash my face, use the toner, and then put this on, my skin would get oily throughout the day. When I eliminated this from my morning routine, my skin stayed pretty normal. I did continue to use this at night before I went to bed so that it could soak into the skin, and then when I would wash my face in the morning, it would wash it off, so it would help to hydrate the skin, but it didn't get all oily. So the other thing with this, if you're using makeup, I would not use this before makeup. It makes your makeup get really, really oily, and it starts to melt and run throughout the day. Once I eliminated that before I started putting makeup on, it didn't do that. So the hydrating serum is good, but I just would not use it in the morning if you have oily skin, and I would not apply it before makeup. So yeah, for my morning routine, I eliminate this step. The next step and the last step in the Verage skincare line is the moisturizer. I use this both morning and night. I love this moisturizer because you don't have to use a whole lot. It's just a tiny amount. And the same thing with the hydrating serum. When I use that, not even a full push on the squish top. I don't know what it's really called, but it's not even a full push down. Gets you enough to cover your face. So I know like the price of the Verage line looks kind of high, but you're really not using a whole lot at a time. And so the value is pretty good. You're getting a pretty good return. I bought the entire collection in January. It's now February, it's almost the end of February. I haven't even used the first container of the cleanser yet because you don't have to use very much of that either. I am probably about a quarter of the way through the toner. So I did buy more toner so that I will have it on hand. I didn't need to, but I went ahead and did that for my February order. The hydrating serum, there is plenty left. I would say I've used maybe a 20th of this bottle. And then the moisturizer, I'd say I've probably used a quarter of it. I went ahead and bought another one just to have it. So that's the thing, is like, don't feel like you're gonna have to buy the whole collection every month. Just replenish what you need to replenish as you go through it. So I probably won't even need to buy the cleanser and the toner next month because I'll probably have plenty left. So probably won't be until April that I need to buy more. I'm a big fan of the Verage line. I've tried some of the other doTerra lines. I've had mixed results with them, but I really do love the Verage line. So that is my follow-up to the Verage skincare project. So now that we've talked about the Verage skincare line, I kind of want to go through the routine that I do for my skincare, makeup that I normally wear for these videos, and sometimes for work days when I have meetings that I know I'm going to be on video for. So I know there are people out there that think it's odd for a guy to wear makeup. It's really not. There are a lot of guys that wear makeup. It boosts your confidence. It makes you more attractive. It's just a way to make yourself feel better. And that's part of the reason why I started doing it. I started doing it when I started filming these videos because I wanted to look better on camera. And then I've actually started doing it on a pretty regular basis before work. Even though I work at home, I still do it because it makes me more confident. I just like the way I look better with makeup. So not saying you have to wear makeup to look better, but you know, if it's something that you've been thinking about, whether you're a guy, a girl, non-binary, if it's something that you're looking to explore, just do it. I mean, the worst that happens is you spent some money on some makeup and you decided you didn't like it or it was too much work. I have done a lot of experimenting with makeup, lots of different brands, cheap brands, higher end brands, different kinds of brushes, different types of like foundations, liquid, powder, cream, and these are the ones that I've found work best for me. Everybody's skin is different, but these are the ones that I really like. So the first product that I use, obviously, is the Verage cleanser. So I clean my face with that in the morning. And then the second step, I'm gonna go ahead and remove my glasses. The next step that I do is the Verage toner. And as I mentioned before, it's a spray toner and it's really easy to apply. So just spray it on my face. And then I just rub it in with my hands and fingers. Something I learned that I didn't know before I started wearing makeup, and probably people who wear makeup go, yeah, duh. But The skin under your eyes is extremely sensitive, and you have to be really gentle with it. When I first started wearing makeup, I would like push stuff in under my eyes and then wonder why I kept getting dark circles. It's probably bruising because your skin there is really thin and there's not really much fat between that and your facial bones. And so if you're applying something under your eyes, you're supposed to actually use your ring finger because it is the weakest finger on your hand, and so it won't press too hard even if you accidentally do it. So just a thing that I learned that I wanted to pass on. Some of you probably already knew it. If you didn't, now you do. So since I'm doing makeup right now, I'm not going to use the hydrating serum because it kind of makes the makeup get weird. But I am going to do the moisturizer. Again, it does not take much. I literally squish out about that much, maybe a tiny bit more. That's it. I've seen some people on some makeup tutorials where they just like put a ton of moisturizer in their hand and they're rubbing it in and their face is like really shiny, and I'm like, that seems like way too much. So what I do is just kind of rub it in. I always apply it under my eyes first because that's the spot on my face that I feel needs the most moisturizing because it gets the lines. Let that set for a moment while I do the rest of my face, and I just dab it around. And then I just do circular motions like that. Try to get it all over, especially down here where I get dry. And this moisturizer really soaks into your skin. Maybe it's just because it's winter and the air is dry, but like I don't feel like I have to like rub it in too much to get it to go in. And then it really isn't like oily, greasy, and shiny like some moisturizers are. So I really do like that. I mean, I still kind of have like a matte finish to my face, so I like that. So once I put the moisturizer on, I let that soak in for a few seconds. Now that my moisturizer is soaked in, I'm going to do my next step, which is primer. This is ELF Poreless Putty Primer. This is my favorite primer. I actually bought a little tiny like travel size pack of the ELF primers to try them out. And this is the one that I liked the best. I did go ahead and buy a bigger size for when this one is out. But it's not like a liquid primer like you normally would use. It's like a cream almost. Well, it's a putty. I mean, that's the name of it. So I just stick my finger in, dab it on. I really try to get it in the areas that I think I'm gonna need it the most, which is typically my nose, under my eyes, and anywhere else where my pores feel gigantic. This does a really good job of filling in pores and lines. Excuse me while I look in my mirror so I know what I'm doing. And then I just literally rub it in. For under my eyes, to make sure it gets in those creases, I rub it back and forth. And then on my other areas of my face, I kind of do circular motions, try and make sure it gets into the pores really well. This is not like a greasy primer either. Some of the primers that I've tried, especially like the liquid lotion ones, they're like really greasy and your skin just feels greasy after you use them. And I don't like that because my skin is greasy enough already. Don't need to add to that. And since I am a guy with the receding hairline, I always try to get the primer up a little higher so that the makeup doesn't make like a weird spot up at the top. So the nice thing about being a guy with a beard is you don't have to worry about this part of your face that much. You're not gonna be putting makeup on it, so you save a lot on product. And this primer does help keep things with a matte finish, which I like because I'm trying to go for more of a natural look. Really my goal with makeup is to kind of even out my complexion and add a little bit of color where I want it and kind of make my eyes stand out a little more. I don't do a whole lot of crazy stuff. I don't like do eyeshadow and that kind of thing because I'm not going for like a glam look. I'm just going for more of a natural look that's even. So I just rub that in. You're supposed to leave this putty primer on for like 30 seconds to a minute and let it soak into your skin and kind of like melt with your body heat. So that's typically what I'll do. I will throw the primer on and then I'll run and like make coffee or something. So I'm gonna move on to the next step. So this is the NYX Professional Makeup Color Correcting Concealer. This was actually a Christmas gift for my friend. I haven't experimented with a lot of the different colors here, but the one that I do use is this light peach. The reason I use that is because I have the dark circles under my eyes, and this kind of helps to cover those up a little bit. So I just dab a little bit on my finger, dab it under my eye, just a bit. I really don't use a whole lot, just enough to kind of brighten it up. And then I just blend it with my finger. I just tap it until it isn't really like sticky anymore. Now this is not the only concealer I'm going to use. So if you're thinking it doesn't look that great right now, just wait. I'm going to move on to my concealer now. So this is the ELF 16-Hour Camo Concealer Matte Finish. I was using Shape Tape before, and I really like Shape Tape concealer, but it is really expensive. So I started looking for dupes, and this was recommended as one of the dupes for Shape Tape concealer. So I started using this, and I really like it. So what I do with the concealer is I typically just apply few dots in that line under my eye. I don't do too much because it can really brighten up my eyes too much. And then if I have any like spots on my face, like dark spots or anything, I kind of dab just a little bit on those. So as you'll see, I don't apply a whole lot of concealer. And then I take a damp beauty sponge. Hopefully, since this is green, it doesn't just disappear on the green screen, but then I just lightly blend that in. Just blending that in to brighten up that under eye area and hopefully cover some of those lines and that sort of thing. And then I use the back side of the blender on the other parts of my face because it blends a little better that way. I do sometimes, if I have a lot of hyperpigmentation and it's really noticeable up here, I will actually do the whole part up here to cover that up, but I'm not going to do that today. So very bright, quite brightening. The other thing that I do with my under eye after I do my concealer, I kind of set the concealer, and this is the ELF HD powder. This is really good. Like fine powder that really gets in some of those lines under your eyes and kind of blurs some stuff out. So it's a very like finely milled powder. I really like it. So what I do under my eyes is I take a dry little mini beauty blender and I just dip it into that powder. I don't get like a whole lot on there, just enough. There's a bit, and then I just tap that where I put the concealer under my eyes. Because it helps to set that in, because when I do my powder foundation, I don't want that to smear up all of my concealer that I just put on. So that's why I do that. And then that kind of finishes my under eye. The next thing that I do, this is my foundation, and I really love this. I've tried liquid foundations, I've tried creams, I've tried other powders, and none of them work as good as this one. It's the Bare Minerals Matte, and this color is Fairly Medium 5. It's a little tiny bit dark for my skin tone, but it works. So if you've never used Bare Minerals before, it's a little weird to use. you actually have this kind of shaker, and you're supposed to tap it out into the lid. And then I use this really stiff brush. I use a really stiff bristle brush because there's a brush that you're supposed to use with Bare Minerals, but it's kind of expensive, and I found these at Walgreens, and I really like these. It's soft, but it's stiff enough that it'll get it like blended into your face. So with Bare Minerals, you put it in the lid, and then you get the brush in there and you do circular motions and you hold it in your hand, because the heat from your hand and the friction is supposed to kind of like make it more blendable. If you've used other powder foundations, I don't know what they recommend, but for Bare Minerals, they recommend you start at the outside of your face and blend in. So I've heard other ones where you're supposed to start in the middle and blend out, but this one specifically says to go from the outside in, and it does work a little bit better for me. So I usually start out here, and you want to do circular motions and really blend that into your skin. Because if not, sometimes you'll get like an area of really dark coverage. So, and then you just keep doing that until you get it all blended on your face. I always try to blend my foundation high up here under my eye so that it kind of covers up some of that lightness from the concealer too. My next step is blush. I don't use a whole lot of blush. This is a Wet n Wild, and it is Mellow Wine. And I use just a tiny amount, and I use a fan brush to apply it. So I just sweep the fan brush over it, tap off the excess, and I literally just barely throw it on my face. And then I apply just a tiny bit down the bridge of my nose and a little bit on the temples. I'm probably not using any of these tools or products right, but this is what works for me. So, the next step, I go back to my HD powder and I use a very soft powder blending brush, and I apply powder over all of this to kind of set it in. I typically do my eyes last because I don't want to get a bunch of powder in my eyelashes and eyebrows and stuff. But usually for my eyes, I really only do my brows. I don't do a whole lot with my eyelashes, but I'm going to go ahead and do that today so I can show you what I do. But I have this Almay brow styler. It's kind of a brow tint, and it kind of has like a brow gel in it too. My eyebrows aren't as dark as like I thought they were, especially after I apply makeup, and so I like them to be a little bit darker, kind of makes them stand out a little bit more. And so what I do is I take it's kind of like a mascara wand, I go from the inside, go up, and then I pull it out, because that kind of makes the inside edge look a little more filled in than the outside. Gives it a little more definition. If I have little stray hairs in my eyebrows, I try to avoid those so they don't get darker. So it really does darken my eyebrows a lot. So, and then I have a brow gel, eyebrow styling gel. I like to use this just because it helps it stay in place. This is from Believe Beauty, which is actually like a Dollar General brand. It was like really cheap. I think it was like $3. So. Works just as good as like NYX or any other styling brow gel. So I apply that just to kind of keep the brow hairs in place. So I'm going to do my lashes real quick. All I'm going to do is curl them with my eyelash curler. So the last step in my makeup routine, and I don't do this every day, but I usually add a little bit of color to my lips. What I started doing was this Burt's Bees tinted lip balm, and it's in a zinnia color. It's kind of a dark red. Didn't really like it that much, and so then I was like, well, how can I add some color without like shiny lipstick or something? Because I didn't want it to be like too noticeable. I actually found this L'Oreal matte lipstick, and it's pretty close to my natural lip color, and it really just evens out the color of my lips. Now I don't apply a whole lot, especially because matte lipsticks can be very noticeable on your like dry lips, and they dry your lips out worse. But I do add a little bit of color, kind of helps my lips stand out a little bit more. So that's pretty much my routine other than setting it. And I have this Milani Make It Last matte finish spray, and that's what I use to finish things off. And I really like this finishing spray. I haven't really tried that many others, but like I really like this one. My face doesn't get oily throughout the day when I use that, and so love it. So if you're interested, definitely pick that one up. So this is a finished product. This is the makeup done. Hopefully you see the difference here. Hopefully you saw the difference from the Verage skincare line. I do want to thank you for joining me. I am struggling with trying to figure out what book to read next. So if you have any suggestions for books, please drop them in the comments. I would love to get recommendations and check them out. In the meantime, I will drop links in the description for the Verage skincare line. Until next time, stay safe, stay sane, and stay you. I'm Rutherford Rankin, and this is the Basement Book Drop.